Hello, and welcome to Legends of Amberland 2, The Song of Trees, or at least the demo for it. So, yeah, this is a game that I've been waiting for a little while now, actually. It is pretty much top of my list as far as my anticipated releases, and to the point that I've actually, full disclosure, been helping beta test this a little bit. Mostly working with some of the writing, sentence structure, grammar, that sort of thing. As you can probably guess by the last name, Chris is his first language isn't English, so trying to help out a little bit in that respect since I teach language arts. And yeah, anyhow, I not much of what I have done has made it in yet. I just started recently, so full disclosure on that as well. There's some stuff in here that still needs working on. But yeah, anyhow, I figured I would take you through creating a new game for it. I'm certainly not the best player at this, but and the party I'm going to show isn't going to be optimal, but it is fun, I think, and it shows off a lot of the cool things that the game has to offer if you are interested in it. And yeah, the demo's free. Don't need to pre-order or anything like that. So let's do a new game here. I'm going to start it on hard. That's my preferred setting. You've got your classic fantasy races: humans, half-elves, elves, and dwarves, and no female dwarves. They might not even exist at all. So yeah, each of these gives different bonuses. So humans require less experience to level up. Elves or half-elves can cast a special spell. It's a fairly weak little AoE heal spell, but every now and then it can be useful. They also get +1 willpower and a penalty to strength. So okay. Good for spellcasters. I mean, it's an elf. What do you expect? Elves are just more elfy half-elves. They have 2 special spells that they can do: Elven Touch, which also heals poison. So if you need some healing and some poison curing, then Elven Touch will take care of that. They get some extra magic points, which can be very useful. They get some extra willpower, penalty to strength. The -1 encumbrance stings a bit. Encumbrance is a big deal in this game. It determines what kind of gear you can use, but again, casters, they don't need a ton of gear. They also level up slower. And then dwarves, bonus chance of a critical hit when using axes. Crits are rare in this, or things that will give you a crit chance are rare in this. At least they were in Amberlands 1. I'm not sure with Amberlands 2 how it's eventually going to end up, but right now most of the mechanics are still based around Amberland 1, so he is working on refining some of them and changing them up a bit, but haven't made it into the demo at this point. But yeah, so anyhow, they get additional encumbrance, which makes them good fighters, as you would expect for a dwarf, bonus strength, and a penalty to willpower. So yeah, let's get started. We're going to start with a human female. And each race also has sub-races, which just basically determines bonus attribute points as you go up in levels, and sometimes other little beanies like extra encumbrance or hit points and stuff like that. Now, in the case of this character, I'm going to go for a Highlander for the extra hit points, and the strength and dexterity never hurt either, because I want my first character to be a knight. Now, these are the classes. There's 6 classes that any race can be. So Knight, Warrior, Ranger, Bard, Wizard, and Healer can be played by any class. You can have a Dwarf Wizard if you want. Probably not the best idea, but you can. And then each race also has 2 unique classes. So Champions can be either humans or half-elves. And they're, a unique class to them. Troubadours are basically a buffed-up Bard or a slightly different Bard. I like the troubadours. In terms of like what classes to pick, go to the Amberlands 1 Steam page. If you haven't bought it, buy it, because it's a lot of fun. But then check out the manual on it, because that gives you the breakdown for each of the classes. Basically, knights wear really good gear, but not quite as good at hitting things as warriors, who have slightly lighter gear. Rangers I don't really care for. They're hybrid caster, but they only have a couple of spells that just don't really make it worthwhile to focus on them as a spellcaster. Bards are fantastic. They have some spells that'll buff up your dudes, and they're a really good off healer. And they can poke away at things. They're never going to be much of a frontliner, though. So just be aware, these guys lean more into the magic, into things than the fighty end of things. Rangers lean a bit more into fighting, but they kind of end up being bad at both. So then the wizard and the healer, kind of self-explanatory, blasts things and puts things back together. Highly useful to have, one of each. Champion is based on the knight. Don't really care for it. It is lower encumbrance, worse damage, but he does more damage against sorcerers and warlocks. This is a class that I know Chris is actively working on, though. Like, he's looking for feedback on it in the Steam forums. So yeah, Troubadour works very well. It's a bard, but it doesn't heal quite as well, but he gets a bit more support magic. So yeah. Anyhow, we're going to go with the knight, because knights are good, and I'm going to go with my usual portrait here. I might edit these bits out as well, probably not. Okay, well, I guess not a usual portrait, because this is, he has a bunch of new portraits in as well. I have used this portrait for Katrina, though, since getting it. Anyhow, going to bump her strength up to 9, and then put the rest into toughness. Strength of 10 is an important breakpoint, boosts up your encumbrance. And then her job is basically to get punched in the face, so higher toughness is good. Perfect. Next character is going to be a dwarf. And once again, we've got our subspecies here, and I'm going to go with a mountain dwarf in this case, and he's going to be a warrior. And find my portrait for him. There we go. And we have Septimus with a bit of extra toughness and a bunch of extra strength. Okay, next up, we're going to do another dwarf. And we're going to do a hill dwarf for the encumbrance. Because here I'm going to take one of the 2 special classes of the dwarf. The Troll Slayer, I don't care for. More health than based on the warrior, so more health, and he will automatically crit trolls. But in exchange for that, he can't use shields and loses an accessory slot. So that stings quite a bit. I think that's another class that could use a bit of love. But we are going to go with a battlesmith. Battlesmith is basically a beefed up ranger, and actually has some really useful support magic. So he's basically here to cast a couple spells and then hit the snot out of things. He's worse than either of these two, but the bonus, his buff spell makes him worthwhile. So for here, we're going to go with my, once I find him. Nope, there he is. I went right past him. Renar. And Renar is going to get up to 4 willpower. And I'm going to bump him up to 5 willpower. Actually, no, I think he probably only needs 4. And then give him a bit more toughness as well. Again, just for that strength for the extra encumbrance, toughness for the HP, and then the willpower. I think this is enough for him to be able to cast his buff spell. So, yeah. Next up, we are going to have a half-elf, and we're going to go for Highborn Heritage, and we're going to pick a bard. Because bards have good buff spells, and they are good healers. Oh, I picked female, though. I meant to pick male. We are a... Yeah, we'll just do the half-elf for the... Yeah, we'll go with half-elf. And pick a bard. And this will be... Once I find him, there he is. Helmuth. Now, he is mostly caster, so we're going to dump a bunch into his willpower and a couple into knowledge. Yeah. Next up, we are going to go for a female elf, and gonna pick a gray elf. Yeah, I think, yeah, go with a gray elf. Now, for the elves, and you'll notice here, some of them are half-elf. So half-elf can be either a sage or a champion. I didn't point that out when I went to Helmuth there. Yeah, so the sage is basically a wizard with a couple of healing spells. He can be useful, I think, but I prefer to go with a mage knight. They can wear better gear. I can actually swap between Renar and Isle Nice here into the front ring because I need them. It can be nice to get her actually right in the middle because she can open up with some big AoE damage spells and stuff like that, which is kind of cool. So, yeah. I like having Mage Knight. Tends to be low on hit points is the only problem. Now there's another new portrait that I like for her, and that's this one. I think that looks very, very Mage Knight-esque. So, there we go. Isle Nice. And Isle Nice is predominantly a caster. I am going to give her a bit of toughness, and then we're going to do 1 into knowledge and 2 into willpower. She hits pretty good, and it's worthwhile getting her toughness up a bit, but for the most part, Renar sits on the front line, even though she can wear better gear. But I will occasionally, she will get better gear at points and make more sense to have her. Anyhow, keep going. Doesn't really matter at this point. And last up, we're going to have 2 elves. Another female elf, another gray elf, and this will be our healer. And we'll go with... Where's our portrait? There we go. That's one thing I do like, is the portraits aren't actually tied to the race. So, like, I mean, he doesn't really look like a dwarf. Does she really look like a full elf? Not really, but it makes sense to me. Anyhow, in the case of Olander here, we want as many points in willpower as we can. Knowledge matters a lot less for healers, because what I find limits me the most is running out of healing magic. So, it's actually a strong argument for taking a sage instead of a wizard, but the wizard gets just objectively better blasty spells. I feel, at least. You can definitely make an argument for either of them, though. You could actually probably make a good argument for ditching the what's her name here? The Mage Knight for a Sage. But I find that makes me a little bit too squishy, or I feel like it does. Anyhow, once again, too much babbling. Knowledge matters more for wizards, I will say that much. Just need to find my Yandora portrait here. There we go. But yeah, so knowledge matters more for wizards. You do still want the willpower, because it is definitely useful, but lean into knowledge more, generally. That's it. So let's begin the adventure. Okay, so welcome to the interface. Once again, if you played Amberlands 1, this should look very familiar. And right off the bat, I'm going to double check and make sure I can indeed cast Sharpness. I have 23 mana points, and it cost me 22 mana to cast it. So we'll get Sharpness up, because that gives everybody a 10% damage bonus. And that spell alone, I think, makes it worthwhile. So anything that increases damage on a scale like that is just going to be awesome. So, yeah. Anyhow, other thing I wanted to do is shift a little bit of gear. I'm going to pull her helmet and her shield off, and I'm going to give them to Renar. His encumbrance should be enough to handle this. So the encumbrance is basically the limitation of gear. So he has 24 encumbrance total, and you can see how it breaks down there. He gets 20 from his class, 3 from his race, and 1 from his strength, so that's a total of 24. In the case of Isle Nice, she actually has a higher encumbrance at 29. So 30 from her class and minus 1 from her race. Getting her strength up will be important, just so she can wear heavier gear. Katrina, as you can see, has the highest encumbrance. She starts with 43. And then Septimus is a little bit less at 30. Helmuth has 15. But yeah, so anyhow, there's no gear limitation. So I can take her plate armor off and I can throw it on Alandra here. But it does, like, destroy her magic casting and her damage. So something you generally want to try and avoid, though I have heard of people doing strange things like running a healer on the front line and just overloading them completely. I guess it works for them. But anyhow, yeah, let's do a fight or two, and then I might call this. I want to keep it relatively short. And yeah, so let's do a fight. So let's fight this goblin, just to show you what the combat looks like. Each class also has a unique ability that they can use once per day, and just, I don't know, explore them. They're kind of cool. They have a heal, healers have a heal, wizards can restore spell points. Yeah, we'll fight the goblin and kill him. Okay. So combat's pretty straightforward, as you can see. And we're on to Gandora now, so we'll actually show you. So this is the magic. She's got her magic spells here and stuff like that. We'll open things off with the magic arrow. This is should be her default attack. It only costs 1 mana, and it does 10 to 30 damage. So, well worthwhile casting that pretty regularly. Septimus is a bit hurt here, so I'm actually gonna do a heal on him. And we'll fight this guy. Oh, 1 hit point. There we go. Got him. Last thing I wanted to show you is just this very first dungeon here. If I turn this into a bit of a series, it won't likely be until after, into June, because I need to, finish out the school year here. But I'll show you this little dungeon here. It's right off the start, and it shows one of the new mechanics that he's working on here. So, familiar with the levers, and we got a magic item, Robe of Royal Inspectors. We'll check that out in a moment. And if we read this here, when the eye opens, a secret is nearby. So you can see here, that just changed. Eyeball opened. Go back, it's closed. There, now it's open. So, yeah, that means that there's a secret door. And you walk through there, it's an illusionary wall. Going around here, we find ourselves some magic items, a robe and a ring. And yeah, so there's our Robes of Royal Inspectors, which gives us a bonus of knowledge. Sure, we'll give that, again, the spell point's always important for your healer, so I'll throw the knowledge on her. I guess it's not so much that I would need, it's willpower. But we will give her the Ring of Iron Will. Why not? Okay, and that is it for this dungeon. Last thing I think I'm going to do is just poke into the town here, because right off the bat, you'll notice the towns are no longer menus like they were in Amberland 1. Now you can wander around them, and you've got all the usual shops and stuff like that here. And before I end the episode, I think what I'll do is show you the weapon shops. Because he's completely reworked the item system. Everything now has these qualities, and they'll go up as you find better shops and stuff like that. And you get, you can start getting some of these tags and stuff like that quite early on. Like Slayer is a pretty darn good ability on an item. 33% chance for a crit. That's pretty darn good. You can get sorcery protection. There's a bunch of, he's reworked the resistances. Both elemental resistances and the status effect resistances. That's why there's the plus 10 here and the plus 20 there. But yeah, so that's new and different. And then, so that's the regular shop. Over here we have the guild shop. Personally, I think these logos should probably be changed, like swapped. Like that makes more sense for like the generic items, and that makes more sense for the special ones, to me at least. Anyhow, little nitpicks. But yeah, so here we have the guild shop, and this works more like the magic shop in the previous game, except stuff's purchasable with gold. And I would assume it, well, the craftsmen, again, work similarly as they did in the first one. You find these guys down in dungeons, and then they get you better items available. Although, you go to the next town, and you actually can get higher tier items there. So something to keep in mind. It's not just tied to these craftsmen. at least as of yet. I haven't actually even found a craftsman yet in the playtesting and stuff, so I don't think they're implemented yet. But yeah, so you get some cool stuff here too. Like you get the protection, just generally better gear. Bump up your toughness, you get whirling, slaying, brand whirling axe. That's kind of cool. So yeah, those are the item shops. And yeah, like I said, demo is free. I'll leave a link in the description below. Hopefully you have a chance to check it out, because if you're into sort of the Might and Magic-y type games, this style of game, Eye of the Beholder, wizardry, all that sort of stuff, it's a really cool homage to the genre. So hopefully I'll be able to pick this up again in June, or at the end of June rather. It is June now, so hopefully I'll be able to pick it up again in a couple of weeks. And yeah, I will catch you then. Cheers.